Thank you for tuning in to the Patricia Show. My name is Patricia. Let's talk. Please press subscribe, like, and share this audio with someone who you think may need it. I want to talk about grief. When a loved one dies, we be in a lot of grief, the people that loved one has left behind. And sometimes that grief will go into a deep depression. And a lot of times the loved ones that's left here will put out the energy that they want to die. They just want to die and go with that person. And I've seen that happen on many occasions. And what happens is that person do end up dying because they're putting the energy out there. What you all have to understand is what you send out to the universe, you're going to get that back. I had a patient, a long time ago. She was a Jewish lady, and her husband had died. And she used to just always say how she wanted to go with him. And I said to her, you're going to keep saying that until you're going to go with him. You can't put that energy out there like that and think that it's not, the universe is just going to ignore you. The more you put it out there with feeling, the more that's going to come and happen to you. And sure enough, she ended up dying and going on with her husband. Now, my as I told you all, my grandson had been shot and killed a few weeks ago. Now, my daughter understands the spiritual side of it enough to understand that the shooter and my grandson has some type of karma going on. And my grandson was clearly ready to leave, and he departed. My daughter had said she had tried to talk to my grandson on many occasions, telling him whatever he was doing, he needed to stop because it could lead to him dying. And he just wouldn't listen, was saying he didn't want to hear that stuff. He wasn't listening. My daughter's best friend seen my grandson a week before he died, and he had told him, man, whatever it is you're doing, you need to stop doing it. Something can happen to you. My grandson still wouldn't listen. And a week later, he died. So that part of it, my daughter told me that she really understood the karmic effect that he had. And then, he clearly it was time for him to go because he would have listened if it was not and changed his lifestyle and would have been still here. But the fact that he wasn't listening to anybody and he continued to go on the path that he was going, my daughter said to me, clearly, it was time for him to go. But that's her son. So even though she understands that intelligently, on another level, as a mother, she's grieving him. So she sent me a text saying that she just wanted to die. And I told her, well, hey, I'm finna give you some real talk. If you're sending that energy out there to the universe that you're ready to die, then you will. Because what you sent out with feeling is what you're going to manifest back into your life. Now, I realized that because we do not understand the process of dying, when people die, we miss them so much until we grieve them, but the grieving goes into like a depression. When my mother died, I was not, at that time when my mother died, I really understood about dying. So I wasn't in a depression or anything. I just missed her. So I would cry every now and then. It wasn't even like where I'm in the bed crying all day. It was just like every now and then. So one day I had this vision of my mother. It was so clear. And she came to me and she said, stop crying for me. She says, I don't want to come back there. I like where I am. And I was like, oh my God, I jumped up. So, oh my God, because it was so real. Now, I understood to know about the process of dying that because I was crying for my mother, that every time I cry, I was drawing her energy back into my space. And so this was clearly disturbing for her. And that's why she was telling me to stop grieving for her. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, because clearly I'm not thinking about my mother. I'm thinking about me. I'm thinking about how much I missed her. So I just like immediately cut that grieving off. Years later, when the divine light began to come through me, and I'll tell you all about that later, this divine light began to come into me. I remember like crying ongoing for like a week, and I didn't know what it was. And the spirit within me said to me, this is the grief that you're holding in your emotional body from your mother's death. Well, that made me realize that when I had cut off the crying, the grief for her, like several years before, because she had told me to stop crying for her, it was still there. I hadn't completed that grief. I just cut it off because it was disturbing her spirit. So anyway, then the light started coming through. It started clearing up the grief that was around me, and it removed that. And so that's why I was crying like the whole week, because it was releasing the grief that was still there in the emotional body. So that also taught me too that we can't just cut off our grief just like that. Like I tried to just cut it off. We cannot cut off our grief like that. We have to complete that grief of whatever, what we're grieving about. And it also, that whole process also let me know that when somebody passed or die, I hate to use the word die because nothing dies. It just transforms. But I'm going to say that in case, for people who don't understand that. When someone dies, we're not grieving for that person. We are grieving for ourselves. And to be honest with you, that's selfish. Because you're not thinking about how your grieving is affecting that spirit that you're grieving for. Maybe you think that the spirit is dead and gone. It's in the ground. It doesn't exist anymore, because that's what a lot of people, some people, now not a lot, some religions teach that, well, the Muslim religions especially, because my family were Muslim, so this is how I know that. They don't teach that your spirit lives on and go to another place. They teach that when you die and you're buried in the ground, everything dies right there. And so they're not thinking of your crying as bringing the spirit uncomfort, because they're thinking that the spirit and everything has died. But Christians and other religions, they think that the spirit lives on. But even though you think that the spirit lives on, and you believe that the spirit lives on, you still, when you're grieving, you're not paying any attention to what your grief is causing that spirit. Because you just think that, okay, out of mind, out of sight, the spirit isn't here, it's going on someplace, and so it doesn't have any, I can't even feel what I'm doing. Because you're just thinking out of mind, out of sight. The spirit is gone from this earth. I can't see my son, my daughter, whoever anymore. So I'm not having any feeling upon them. But it's not true, because you do. Every time you cry, you're grieving for that spirit, you draw that spirit energy back into your space. So when you think about it like that, you think that I mean, that's saying that you're selfish because you're only thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about how you are grieving for this person, how you miss this person, how you want to be with this person. And that is selfish. You're not thinking that that spirit is so glad to be out of that body. The spirit is transformed into its true self, which is pure light. It has gone on, and whatever it do when it go, you know what I mean? Wherever we go, whatever it does. It's either, it has reconnected with God, is happy and is glad to be from this earth. We're not even thinking about that. We're thinking about ourselves, how we miss the life of that person that have died. Now, I don't want to sound cold or crude or anything like that, but we got to start thinking about others and not ourselves all the time. It is said that back in the beginning of time, when we reincarnated on this earth in the days of Lemur, the reason the corruption and the hatred and all these negative things came on the planet was because we had turned away from within ourselves, which means we had turned away from God and when we turn away from God, all of our attention is focused outside of ourselves, and so we're living our lives outside of ourselves. And I'm going to teach deeper on that another day. I just want to make this point so you understand what I'm saying. So it is said that the fall of man happened because man was selfish. And the reason man is still falling to this day is because of man's selfishness. So now, if we would grieve and think about the fact that, yes, we miss this person, we love this person, we're not going to see the person in this form anymore, but we're going to see the person again. Because when we pass on and go in the spirit world, wherever you go when you pass, we're going to reconnect with that person, that spirit, that son, that daughter, that mother, that father. See, we don't think like that. We just think about how we're missing them. We don't even think that they got out of that body and said, oh, Lord, I'm so glad to be out of that body. Now I'm going to return home. Because this is not home where we're at. Where they are going is home. Well, this is not home. This is like a play. We're coming here to work on our karmas, and then we move on. So we're not even thinking about that. We're just thinking about, I miss this person isn't here, that's it. We're not even thinking the fact that maybe the person that I lost, now they have completed their karma for why they came to this earth in the first place. So now they can move on to higher and better things. And I'm so happy for them. No, we're not thinking like that. We're thinking that I miss them. You're not even thinking that they have evolved and gone to a better place. They have grown and gone to a better place. You're just thinking about yourself. I miss them. So we have to stop. We have to come out of our self-centered, selfish selves. Death is supposed to be a celebration of life. But how can you celebrate a life and then fall into a deep depression and want to die? I'm going to end this audio and do another one, part 2. Thank you for tuning in.